On with the show. Early yesterday morning in Melbourne, there was yet another brawl involving Africans as well as some Pacific Islanders. Incredible scenes, like it was some tribal war only played out now in the streets of Collingwood. 6 people taken to hospital, including 3 who were rammed by a car, leaving one man critically injured.
Person has lost his leg as a result of these despicable actions on behalf of the driver.
Just as incredibly, not one of those brawlers that you saw was arrested at the scene. Not a single one, even though police have been tipped off there would be trouble.
And if we start, grabbing people, without some sort of coordinated approach, it poses risk.
Now, this is becoming awfully familiar in Melbourne. Just a month ago at Taylor's Hill, dozens of young Africans brawled, a police car was smashed up, not one person arrested. But the policing of African crime in Melbourne, or to be specific, of crime by the Sudanese refugee community there, has been absolutely astonishing from the start. There has been so much cover-up. For instance, 12 years ago, the then head of Victoria Police, Christine Nixon, falsely claimed that police data showed the young Sudanese that police had to deal with did not, in a sense, represent more than the proportion of them in the population. Completely false then, even more so now. The Sudanese crime rate, especially for assaults and home evasions and carjacking, is now off the dial. And that reality finally became too obvious to cover up when the very public riot occurred at the Moomba Festival of Africans, rioting in the heart of Melbourne 2 years ago. And since then, there have been several more riots, including one just 6 weeks ago, in which a teenage Sudanese girl was killed. Joining me earlier was Sky News Melbourne Bureau Chief Aaron Young. Aaron Young, thanks for joining me. What exactly happened on Saturday night?
Well, we understand that a group of people came together in what was meant to be a record launch, a hip-hop record launch at a pub in Smith Street, just near Alexandra Parade in Collingwood. Now, around 2:45 a.m, apparently a massive fight started inside the pub and then spilled out onto the streets. Nearby residents saying that there were people chasing each other, it would die down for a bit, and then they'd spot someone else, start chasing them. Then there was this bizarre incident, which was the thing that got a lot of the publicity straight away because of what we've been seeing with this use of vehicles as weapons. But an 18-year-old suffered serious injuries, was taken to hospital after he was hit by a car. At that stage, of course, police were quickly on the scene. But given what we've seen, what we have heard, there was a lot of time, of course, where these people were running riot.
Yeah, well, in fact, 6 others were taken to hospital too. I mean, this is quite extraordinary. How many people were involved and who were they?
We understand 200 people. Victoria Police were asked about who they were. Predominantly, we were told they are African-Australian appearance, but also Pacific Islanders, we're told as well. We don't know if there were different factions. We don't know if it was a gang or a group. Victoria Police at this stage saying that what we understood was that some local police had actually told Police Command that they were concerned about this coming ahead. So there had been a Facebook post which had said, we don't want any trouble in the days leading up to it. That was by the organisers who may have had an inclination. But there was also an Instagram post from someone who we understand is connected to Menace to Society, MTS, the letters that we've continually seen spray painted on some of these properties that have been wrecked in recent times.
And who's Menace to Society? I mean, obviously they are, but who are they?
Well, that is a very good question. What defines a gang? What defines a group? We know Victoria Police being very careful about the terminology that they use. Menace to Society seems to be people who are attracted to this organisation and people who seem to be spray painting, but are they actually members of a group or of a gang? That's something that Victoria Police themselves can't seem to agree on.
Well, with 6 people in the hospital, I think we can safely assume that whatever they're called, we don't like them. But how many people were arrested?
Well, there was one person arrested who has now been released, we understand, an 18-year-old, appears to have been the driver of that vehicle. Police saying that he was arrested yesterday, released pending further inquiries.
So arrested yesterday. So at the scene, with 200 people involved, we've seen some of the footage, haymakers being laid out. As I said, 6 people taken to hospital, not one person arrested at the scene.
No.
This is a similar situation to Taylor's Hill. Now, that was a month ago.
Early last month.
Early last month. That was, again, dozens of people rioting.
Well, it depends on who you
depends,
ask. The police say 20 to 30, but a number of witnesses say that there were more than 100.
Police at the scene said there were more than 30. Police, well, up to 60. Police command played that down. So take your pick. No one arrested there too, even though a car was smashed up. What's going on here?
Yeah, so rocks were thrown, police cars pelted with rocks. We understand that police actually were there monitoring because they were watching on social media, knew that something was going to happen. I've spoken to police just today, asked them the question about this. They say still no arrests. And even further to that, which gets quite bizarre, but through all of their inquiries, it seems that they haven't actually been able to get any verified evidence that there was a brawl at all when they've spoken to eyewitnesses. So despite the fact that police were there, that cameras were there, that residents came out of their homes and saw a brawl, despite speaking to all the people who were there and involved, there was officially no brawl.
Aaron, you're pulling my leg. You mean a riot squad was deployed to what residents called a riot, a car was smashed up, and police are saying they don't have evidence there was a riot that they attended.
But what they have done is set up an information caravan to try and ask the locals how they feel about community safety.
Let me have a guess. They feel pretty rotten about it.
Well, through that, they've been able to ask some people questions, but as I say, still no arrests being made a month on.
Policing in Victoria is an absolute joke when it comes to this problem. Do you think it's going to be a big election issue come later this year?
Well, I was out speaking with Matthew Guy, the Victorian opposition leader, today. They've announced that they're going to be bringing back the portfolio of crime prevention, $38 million. He's pointing to the fact that Daniel Andrews got rid of that. I asked him how will that money be spent. He said on things like CCTV, also on neighbourhood watch programs, some of whom have ran out of money. We heard from some residents in St Kilda today who say that they've been watching as the crime rates have been soaring, just things that have been happening in parks, etc., over the past couple of years. They say have been getting a lot worse. But also this zero tolerance approach they're speaking about. The trouble is that it seems that our police station holding cells, remand centres, even court remand centres, the cells at the bottom of those courts, they're all full. And a lot of that goes back to that huge brawl riot we saw at the Ravensthall Remand Centre back 3 years ago. Still, much of it hasn't been repaired.
So they're full, even though police don't seem to arrest people at these big brawls. They've got no room to hold anyone else. Look, something is seriously wrong. Aaron Young, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Great to speak to you.
After the break, an update on the drought after these welcome rains lately, plus Nigel Farage with a message for Pauline Hanson.